so excited. Today I have a wonderful guest. I want to welcome you all to episode 10 of Her Journey, Her Way from Corporate to Founder. For those of you joining for the first time, this event is for you if you're looking to either exit corporate and you just want a little bit of inspiration, or two, you may have already exited corporate and you're still going through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and you just want to uh, inject some good energy back into your business, or if you're looking just for inspiration and motivation from all the powerhouses I bring. This is a bi-weekly event and it's been so far very enlightening for a lot of people, and I'm really excited to bring you different profiles of women who have made it through their exit from corporate directly into entrepreneurship. For those of you who don't know me, before we start, I am a holistic transformational coach. My mission is to help corporate women discover their inner worth, enhance their emotional intelligence, and embrace their path to freedom and purpose. And I basically help women step into their authenticity with boldness and clarity. I feel like a lot of us lose ourselves in the process of our career, and sometimes it's good to be able to step back and kind of recharge our career again. And my name is Brenda Lisa Costa. So before we go on and I'll introduce to you my amazing guest today, I want to just go through a couple of different things. I'll be looking at the comments that you guys are providing. So if you want to share any questions or any comments, feel free to do so. In the last couple of times I've been projecting through StreamYard, not all comments are coming my way. So if for some reason I don't call your name or I don't recognize your comment or anything like that, I apologize. So please forgive me. That's not meant on purpose. It's just that it's one of the things I've been dealing with StreamYard and it hasn't been fixed yet. With that said, I want to introduce to you my amazing guest today, Sarita Jackson, or Dr. Sarita Jackson. She is the founder and president and CEO of the Global Research Institute of International Trade, or we may also call it GRIT or GRIIT. It's basically a Los Angeles based think tank and consulting firm. She works with US and international firms to reduce the risk and maximize the opportunities in the global market. She does so through customized market research and analysis, development of strategy that makes sense for that specific firm, and connection with trusted advisors and partners. Her efforts have earned her in 2023 Global Innovation and Excellence Award by the Global Chamber. And she's also recently just published her book, International Trade Services, Effective Practice and Policy, which was published by Routledge Taylor and Francis Group in 2021. With that said, I'm just gonna bring her up. Okay, hold on. I don't know why I can't bring her up. There we go. I'm gonna bring her up, and here is Sarita Jackson for you. Sarita, how are you?
I am well. Thank you so much, Brenda Liz, for the invitation. I'm so excited to be here and to discuss in terms of as a female entrepreneur and really reaching your potential. And can I just say something very quickly? I thought
Yes.
about as you were reading the bio. So as you mentioned, my firm, Global Research Institute of International Trade, mouthful. But the acronym GRIT with two I's, there was a purpose behind that, not just as an acronym for the full name of the firm, but what I was dealing with at that time where I was making my transition from academia to becoming an entrepreneur. And I knew in order to do this, I needed what? Persistence, determination, and guess what? Grit. Mm-hmm. So that motivates me every time I get up and I think about why I started this, when there are some more difficult days or challenging days, and I just look at grit. Go back to why you started this and to remain persistent, determined, and have that grit to keep moving.
That's amazing. And I think you're like, as you were explaining that, it just gives me a flashback of my journey in entrepreneurship. I think without that grit, I wouldn't have been able to be where I am now. So it's a good reminder of the importance of grit within not just your regular career, but also as it translates into entrepreneurship. You mentioned something really interesting. You talked about or doing the transition from academia to entrepreneurship. But before you were in academia, you were in corporate. Can you tell us a little bit more of what you did in corporate, and what drove you to go into academia, and then what drove you to go into entrepreneurship?
Okay, great questions because it was an interesting journey. So corporate. Okay, so right before corporate, I had just finished grad school, and most people, when they complete their PhD or earn their doctorate, they go into academia. Well, I knew, no, I want to go into business. I'm the type of a hands-on type of person, you know, before I went back into academia. So when I was in corporate, I was in the Washington, D.C. area, and I worked for a consulting firm, which I really loved because it allowed me to really be on the ground and really see how things work when it comes to international trade. And that's my specific focus for your audience when it comes to international trade. And when I say trade policies, you may have heard of U.S. Mexico Canada agreement. So I was looking at how we can take these policies and work with companies in different countries around the world so that they could leverage some of these trade agreements and sell their goods internationally, and particularly in the U.S. and from the U.S. Overseas, and they could compete. So that was the work that I was doing, and I loved it. The money was great. It's corporate, right? Speak for Alicia. You know, it's corporate.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right? You're traveling all around the world. But what happened? Oh, before I even get to like exactly what happened, what I appreciated about that experience, in addition to really working on the ground, not just teaching or focused on theory, what I also appreciated about that was it was a small firm. It was small in the sense that I had access to everyone. It wasn't so big that it was like you're in one role and that's it. I came in as a technical person focused on international trade policy, then you had the legal side, accountants, so on and so forth. But what I did at that firm that really helped with my company now was each time I would work late, it'd be at corporate, so you're working late hours. And I would see the people in the business development office working late, and I said, well, I'm interested in understanding how this business works. I get what I do, but how does this company operate? And by just sitting with them, and first of all, I'll never forget one of the gentlemen, he said, you're the first person that actually cared about what we did. Because they're the ones that's signing these contracts, whatever it is that we're doing overseas. So getting informal training, if you will, I still have those notes. That's what I use to start my company. But to get back to your question of what happened, I got laid off at that company. But then again, that's business, right? It's you don't have the protections. Where basically I went to work. The company was downsizing, so they got bought out later on. But they were downsizing, so it was a Friday afternoon. Come to our office. You're getting laid off. This was right before Christmas. Mm-hmm. Well, fortunately, I was paying attention to what was going on. So my 5-year plan, I thought, I don't think that's going to happen here. And so I had already started reaching out. I didn't wait until I found out. I just was prepared. And that's one of the things I want to tell people, whatever it is that you're doing, and it definitely comes in handy as an entrepreneur, just always pay attention to what's going on, and don't be reactive, be proactive. And fortunately, I was proactive months ahead. I started reaching out to everyone that I knew. I was doing power lunches, networking, and then I just reached back to academia. And there was a position opening up, and that's how I ended up going from the corporate sector back into academia where I had a tenure track position. So I couldn't turn that down because, again, even though the money, I took less money, but then when you talk about tenure, that means you have a job for life. You can't be fired. I mean, 6 years, there's a lot of things you have to do to get that, but to get the tenure and promotion. So that's how I shifted from the corporate sector, getting laid off,
Mm.
and returning back to academia.
And then, how long were you in academia before you made the decision of shifting into becoming your own business owner?
Good question. So let's see. I would say maybe about 3 years in.
Okay.
It was 3 years in. Um, I just, and a friend reminded me of this. I just don't get comfortable. I just don't like complacency and being comfortable. So 3 years in, I was working toward tenure, but I thought, okay, when I get tenure, what happens after? It's great to have, but will I be in the place where I really want to be? And like I said, when you and I were talking right before we got on, I was saying I've always had that dream of whatever it was that I was doing, whether it was, I wanted to be an entertainer, being in LA, to journalism. So whatever career path growing up that I took, I knew I had to own whatever it is that I was going to do. So I had that in the back of my mind. And in 3 years in, I said, I have to really think, okay, when I get my tenure, will I still be able to grow and get to where I want to be,
Mm-hmm.
especially in this space, in the global space? And I did an assessment and said, okay, I'm going to continue on, get my tenure, get my promotion, which I did. But at the same time, I was networking. Talking to entrepreneurs, taking courses on entrepreneurship. And it took one chance meeting, a quick disappointment in academia, but that was the best disappointment ever because I would have never met this person that connected me with the right individuals in Los Angeles that basically said, we're here, you need to make the decision, come back to Los Angeles, we can help you get started. And I said, well, now is the
So,
time.
so you went from corporate to academia, and then from academia, you basically said, I'm quitting, I'm doing this, and I'm packing everything and I'm moving.
That's what I did. I
Oh,
transitioned,
yes. I
but
can
literally, everything that I had built, my beautiful place, everything, it was packed up. I got rid of a lot of stuff, whatever could fit in I had my car shipped, and whatever could fit in some things boxes that could be shipped, and whatever I carried on that plane, and that was it. It was like literally starting
all
over.
over again. I mean, I think I feel what you're saying because we did something similar. We were in New Jersey, so I got laid off, and we were in New Jersey when I made the decision of I'm going full into entrepreneurship. And during that decision, one of the things we said is, how do we create a financial cushion to help us? Because entrepreneurship require, like, there's ups and downs in entrepreneurship. It's not going to be consistent, specifically during the first couple of years. And our plan was, well, let's move first somewhere warm, and then second, it's let's get closer to family and a place where the cost of living is less, and we sell our house, we have a cushion, financial cushion, and all of that. So I understand what you're saying of starting all over again, because it's hard. I mean, I did it. We moved. I began my entrepreneurship journey at the end of 2022, and we moved in July of 2023 to Florida. And it's been a big change, huge change. And I think, for me, a lot of it has been recognizing, why am I doing this? How were you able to navigate the ups and downs while going through all that change?
Mhm. Well, okay. So one thing I just want to address the part, and then I'll come to your question. That's a good point about making sure you have the financial cushion.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it was so important that I had started planning 3 years ahead. I remember a friend mentioned to me, "Oh, I got inspired by you. I quit my job." I said, "I didn't just do that. No, no. I was planning all along, saving the funds to at least get me through that first year. Then I moved to Los Angeles, so I was closer to family, so I had that support versus I'm just out on my own trying to do this. But I had planned as best as I could well in advance so that when I made the transition, I said, okay, I've learned enough from consulting. I have a lot from academia that I can start this company. But then I have some money to get started, really investing in whatever I needed, getting, accountants, those core resources so that I start off right. So that so that's very important. Now the question about how, dealing with the ups and downs. Ooh, let's see. So for me, having the support though, really having the support of
Mm-hmm.
family, my immediate family helped.
Mm-hmm.
Again, trying to do that on my own, I'm just not sure, but really having that support helped. The other thing, and some may agree, some may not, I did not have a plan B.
I don't either. You're not alone. I'm like, everybody asks me, and I'm like, well, my plan B is plan A. I'm
Yeah,
not
exactly.
saying.
Exactly. And I think because, I had in my mind not to fake it till you make it. It was the face it. Have the faith this is going to work out. It's going to have to work out. I don't have time to figure out plans B and C because for me, I just thought that might make me doubt the original plan and why I started this. And having that, what was it? A couple of years ago, I spoke to some high school students, and this was one of the questions one of the students asked me. I said, it was because I knew it was not going to be easy. I planned as best as I could, and there's no such thing as a perfect plan. Otherwise, you'll keep planning. I would still be
Mhm.
planning. It was okay. I have enough just to get started. The rest will work itself out some kind of way. Just we'll figure it all out. But just get started. And it was just again going back to that grit. This is going to work. I've given up a whole career, stability, security. This is going to work. And we are 11 years.
It is absolutely gonna work. And it's been working for 11 years. So
Yes. Oh, and one other thing too, in addition to my family, one of the things that I really helped during the time were reaching out. You have to be careful who you have in your network. That's another thing I learned.
mhm.
But when I started meeting people who were where I wanted to be, and when they were honest, when like let's say if I don't know, whatever, if I say, "Oh, this didn't quite work out well," sometimes you might think that's a reflection of you when it's not. And I have to be careful about people when they want to give advice and start turning it around and making it about you. But when I really started meeting those entrepreneurs that were where I want to be, where I'm saying, oh, okay, I've made it this far. These are some things I need to do to get that far. And when they say, oh, that's not a big deal. I was there. I did that. Oh, okay. So this is a moment. This is just a rough patch. Other people have been there. So
Mhm.
if the sun is still shining, they're here, they're waking up, and they're where they are. Then just get through this, and you can make it.
I think you've shared a whole bunch of great nuggets. But before I go through the nuggets, I just want to say a couple of thank yous to people who have joined. So I'm not seeing everybody's comments in coming through StreamYard. So I'm gonna call some people because I'm pulling my phone LinkedIn so I can actually see all of the comments. So I have Dr. Julian Cove Hill saying we signed MOU with Washington, D.C. for Sub-Sahara region business improvement. Damien, your comment, it's coming as hello, Brenda Liz, and I know that's you. So thank you for being here with us. Jackie is saying hello, ladies. Glad to be here. Richard, who is an amazing person, it's here also saying hi. And then we also have Elaine Nick. Nick Washa. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And she's saying, "Hello, ladies, great discussion." And then I think there was somebody else in LinkedIn. I'm just looking. I don't want to miss anybody like I've done in the past, so bear with me. I think it's Linda Purcell. It's saying it. She was commenting on the grid, so she's also listening in. And I have Lisa Faverick saying hi, ladies. So I'm really glad and excited. I have so many people here connected, like watching your message. There was one thing that you mentioned about the network specifically, right? And I believe that I 100% agree with you. I think being surrounded by people who are have gone through the same journey and they are probably a step or two or three ahead of you helps a lot, because that way you kind of can see other people's path and like get even more motivated to be instilled in your own path. So I completely agree with you on that. How have you done to get in contact with those people that you feel are the ones who are shaping your path because they walk the talk before you did?
Mhm. Good question. It took a while, because when you're starting out, right, it's every networking event. Someone, you've got to go here, you have to go there. Oh, that's exhausting.
Ex-
Completely exhausting. And so many people in the room. So okay, let me think about my journey. I think by the time when I really got to that group, so I would say maybe about 4 years in, where I really got the solid people. It was being when people, some of my colleagues were in organizations that I had never heard of,
mm,
and getting into the organizations. And of course, you have to make sure that it aligns with what do
mm-hmm,
an assessment, see if this is beneficial. But it was when I got into a couple of organizations focusing on networking, but had a real um, strategy to it. Not just everybody's in a room, 100 people, and we're exchanging business cards, and everybody's looking for business. Where there's a real focus, a mechanism to ensure that it is beneficial to each person, and it wasn't. You actually have to be accepted into some of these groups. That's where things changed. It wasn't
mm,
just anybody can be invited in. It was like you really had to be vetted. Then that's where I started getting to the people that when they were talking and I go look them up, it's like, okay, they know what they're talking about because
mm,
I see that they have accomplished these things. So that was when things changed, when I started looking at different networking groups or even chambers that are in the area of not international business, because that's a whole international business is broad. International trade is its own niche. So once I started finding the groups where they had people that understood international trade, that helps as well. But of course, you want to be with other individuals. For example, accountants. Accountants may be working with companies that are global. Those are good referral sources or people to collaborate with. International attorneys, trade attorneys, or even international business attorneys. So getting in these different groups where I will say, okay, well, in this group, they may not necessarily be international trade, but I can see where there's some camaraderie there, where there's some kind of linkage. Or if it is international trade, again, well, who are the people? What are they doing in international trade? And once I joined those types of groups, it really narrowed my focus time wise. And then with the individuals, where I could get more out of a smaller group than being in a room with hundreds of people, and you walk away like, okay, what did I get out of that besides exhaustion?
I have a question from the audience. Elaine is asking, did you get tenure in those first 3 years of academia?
No, it was a full 6 years. So tenure is a 6 year process. You don't go up for tenure until 6 years. It was just halfway. So the 3 years was when I realized, okay, I'm still going to go through this process, but also start preparing to make that
So you did
transition.
do the 6 years, but
I
in
did.
the midpoint of the 6 years is when you made the decision of then preparing for your exit.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you
And I,
have the tenure. Okay, awesome.
yeah, so I did get my tenure. I got tenure and promoted, and I didn't get to enjoy it much because the ladies that I met that said you need to come now. I I said, well, while I have the help with some individuals that can help me get my message out and start building at least the public speaking arm of my business, I
Mhm.
might as well do that. So I got tenure, I got promoted, and then I hopped on a plane to Los Angeles.
I think I'm trying to look because I
Thank
feel
you, Elaine.
yeah, and she said she got it. So I'm trying to see if I can kind of see um uh there's somebody who is making a comment and I just don't know who it is, that it's saying which I'm understanding they know you. It's saying, hello Dr. Jackson, good to see you again. So I'm assuming this is someone who's already worked with you or
Yes,
knows
good to see
you.
you again.
But it's one of those things. It's like I don't get everybody's name. When I do, I'll call them out. And I was trying to go and check the comments directly in LinkedIn, but it's not getting me there. Let me see if I can actually see who it is. Let me see. Dr. Michelle Kamau. She was the one who said,
Oh my
good to
God.
see you again.
Thank you.
I'm trying. When things don't work, and this is part of entrepreneurship, you figure it out. I've been battling with not being able to see everybody's comments for a while, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find my work around it, and I have. So, um, Elaine has another question, which is, wouldn't there be opportunities to combine both?
Of of what, the academia and consulting or
I'm
academia and
assuming
entrepreneurship?
combining both the business component, what you're
And
doing,
academia.
and the academia.
So absolutely, that's what I do. I still keep that academic focus, and that's what makes me unique. That I'm not a generalist. That I can really dig deep. So with the work that I do, so let me just kind of back up with my consulting firm. It's very research heavy. So I do a lot of research,
Mm.
research that helps the businesses, but there's also a component policy research, things of that nature. I'm still utilizing everything that I've done in academia with my company. So absolutely, it is possible to combine both. The key thing, though, that I had to learn year one was how I communicate, so that I don't sound like a professor. That I can communicate the value of what I have to offer to a company, for example, so that they will invest in my services. But then once I get them in, then they'll see the research side, and it doesn't mean internet research. It's really using research method and design that I had to use in academia when helping companies.
So you mentioned that, which I find it fascinating because it applies not only to you, but I think I lived it. You mentioned that you kind of had to figure out your own new way of communicating because, like, replicating, the way you communicated in academia and business might not necessarily pair. What did you do to build those skills?
Mhm. Okay, so for example, teaching, that's the other part. Yeah, so I'm still teaching when I do my workshops and trainings, so not just the consulting. So when I had to think about, okay, there's this public speaking arm of my business to get paid to speak publicly, whether it's giving keynotes, but mainly workshops and training. So what I did when I moved back to Los Angeles was I joined Toastmasters. And
Mm.
Toastmasters International is a group for people that have a fear of public speaking and also leadership. Well, public speaking that's not an issue for me. When I joined, it was how do I learn different styles of speaking so that what I'm talking about doesn't go over everyone's head. And through the different Toastmasters club, and I do that both. I speak Spanish as well, so I've joined English language, Spanish language clubs to network as well. To network because you have like great people in the different clubs. That was another component, but it was how do I learn different styles of speaking when I'm getting ready to give a workshop or a training session. I would practice those talks. And now it's really through storytelling. We hear that a lot through the storytelling, but then the question becomes, well, how do I put together a compelling story when
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about something so technical as international trade? So that was really the key for me with Toastmasters.
So um, it's interesting because for those of you who joining now, as we've come through, we're here, we're meeting with Sarita. She went from corporate to academia, and from academia to building her own consulting business. And what I find fascinating is most of the people I have interviewed so far, Sarita is my number 10 interview. Most of them have been people who've done the transition absolutely from corporate to founder, but most of them, I would say 90% of them come from, have become coaches, right? And I think what Sarita has done, it's slightly different. She's been able to merge what she's learned through academia, and she's basically helping people who want to build businesses and they want to do trades, and she's been able to support them with I believe it's international trade, right?
Yeah. Basically, supporting them. So when I'm working with companies or I'm giving these workshops, it's okay. Your business, let's say, and both goods and services now, whether you have a good or food product or service, financial services. How do you sell that good or service to the international market? That's when companies come to me. They say, "Hey, I somebody is interested in my product or interested in my service in another country. Now, how do I develop a system so that I can enter that market, or is that the right market, and enter that market and sell my product or service over the long term?" So that's where the research comes in, developing a strategy so that they can compete in that particular market.
So I in the entrepreneurial like journey, because it's a journey, there is always going to be ups and downs. What would you say has been the most fulfilling moment in your life as an entrepreneur?
Hmm. Let's see. The most fulfilling moment. I mean, oh gosh, let's see. You would think I'd. There's been. um, I would say. Okay, can I give more than one?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're here. We
Okay,
want
so
to celebrate goodness.
yeah, there's been different phases, right? So the first one was when I got my first client within 4 months of moving back to Los Angeles. That was the first one, like, okay, this is going to work. The reason being was because when I left academia, I told my friends, I said, if you don't hear from me for 6 months, that means it didn't work out well. So that was the first one. The second, let's see, of course, when you get your big project, that when you're starting to see, okay, I'm moving from projects from this amount to really significant size projects, and where it's really you're getting the revenue that you're hoping for and profiting, of course. But I would say the main one was last year.
Mm,
Okay, so when I officially registered my business, it was April 10th, 2013. Okay,
okay.
that was right when I was up for tenure, etc., and I had registered my business. Last year, I got an email around that same time saying, "Hey, you have been nominated or selected to receive an award, a Global Innovation Award." I said, "Oh my goodness, this is 10 years. 10 years to be recognized globally for my innovation as a business owner." And that was by the Global Chamber. That was really the pinnacle, because you're thinking, 1 year, okay, now I got to make it 3 years, 5 years. But at that 10-year mark, and in exactly the same month that I registered my business, that that meant a lot. Still means a lot. Like
Okay.
I came this far because again, you're not quite sure. And
Okay.
then, fake it until I make it.
So this is the good, the great, and the beautiful about entrepreneurship. There's also the dark. So what
Right.
would you say has been your hardest moment in entrepreneurship, and what have you been able to learn from it?
Okay. The hardest moment wasn't about the entrepreneurship process per se. It was personally how people deal with you. And I don't know if you've experienced this, Brenda Lee. Um, where not everyone understands what it takes to be an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
and I found that people would fall off.
Okay.
Certain relationships changed, and that was the part I was not prepared for. I was prepared for, okay, you've got, it's going to be financially challenging. You've got to really manage your money to get through this. But it was more so on the personal side of different relationships, and yeah, just not everybody understood what an entrepreneur means. Or as I progressed, I realized I outgrew people, so that you would have that tension. I remember what helped me to deal with it is a really good friend of mine, a late friend. I remember had just happened to call me on a Sunday, and he would never call on a Sunday. But, he would be in church. That's how we knew each other from the East Coast. And he just happened to call, and I took the call, and we were talking, and just everything just came out. I just don't understand what is going on. I have not changed. I'm just grinding to get this business going. And he really talked. It was hours, not an hour, hours long conversation. And he just put it into context. And this is what keeps me going. He just says, "You're doing something that not everyone understands. This is so different. It's beyond many people's uh, world, if you will."
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, because now we're hearing more about entrepreneurship, but not everyone is willing to take that step. And you're out here, you're doing something that's like a foreign language, basically, that they just can't grasp their head around, but keep doing what you're doing. And after that, I just said, because I remember attending a workshop. I think it was a month after I officially, after I started really working on the business. And I remember there was someone that was talking about this on a panel. And she said how she had to adjust with family and friends, like to bring them on the journey. And I thought, great idea. Let them know, let them see what's going on. So it's not, oh, I just expect you to get it. But yeah, some
It's quite a
others,
journey. It's quite a
yeah,
journey. And I
yeah.
do, I do feel, Sarita, that the pandemic kind of steered things a little bit, meaning I think people's knowledge and understanding of entrepreneurship before and after the pandemic is different, because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of new businesses emerged through the pandemic, and a lot of secondary incomes for a lot of households happened during the pandemic. I mean, I know a lot of people still lost their jobs, and that's completely like clear. It's public information out there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, a secondary economy started to get built during that time. Now, I am 100% with you. I think as you going through an entrepreneurial journey, my family kind of like they've been very supportive all along. Of course, I know they're scared, and I know because of the questions they ask, they're like, how's it going this month? Did you get clients? Like they're really concerned, because I come from a family where you kind of like being raised to believe that a 9 to 5 job is the only way, right?
Right.
So I'm the first one, although my dad always had a side business as I was growing up, but I'm the first one who said, I'm not going back to this 9 to 5. I'm building my own table, and I'm sitting in my round table, and I'm inviting people into my table, right? And that's a big change for the family. But at the same time, I think from a friend's point of view, it's, even though I feel I still have support from my friends, I know they're there, and if I need to get on the phone, I know they will answer the call. But our paths are kind of going in different directions, and that's okay, because it's created, I would say, a new stream of people coming into my life that are in complete alignment to where I am. I'm not saying my friends are not in alignment. What I'm saying is, these are people who are living the journey the same way I am, and as a result, we can support each other differently. My friends are still there. When I
Right.
need, I know who I can call, I know who to text. The texts might not be frequent, but I know they're there. And if I need them, I know they will come to the rescue, how I say.
Right.
But yeah, I've lived it. And I've only been in the entrepreneurial journey, I would say probably over fully for a little bit over a year. And I'm sure my network will continue to evolve as time evolves. Um,
Right.
Dame, I have a couple of people commenting here. So I just want to highlight this. Damien saying, I like hearing the journey. Yes, Damien, it's truly a journey. Um, it is different for me, Brenda. And let me put it here. Okay, hold on. It is different for me, Brenda Lisa. I'm learning more and more about entrepreneurship. Damien, yes. And then we have also Damien saying, you're teaching me a lot, Brenda Liz. You're welcome. This is the purpose of these type of events. So for those of you joining, or who are watching the recording, this is not a sales pitch or anything like that. The purpose of these events is basically to be able to show the transparency of what doing that transition looks like, and also learn from others people's experience, like Sarita mentioned before, like knowing that people have done this before her, help her in her journey. We want to make sure that our journey is shaping other people's journeys, so that's why we do what we do. Sarita, we are 42 minutes into the session. What would you advise for those listening who are still in their 9 to 5 jobs and either already began their entrepreneurial journey like you did, or are about to make that decision of going into entrepreneurship? What one or two tips would you give them?
The main tip would be to do the same thing. Like I'm thinking about when I worked 9 to 5, right? When I was in that space, what did I do when I decided, is this the job for me or the career overall? Informational interviews.
Mm.
That's what I did. So that even though each of the positions, whether it was in the corporate sector or academia, it was just the fire in me was I always like I said, wanted to own my own business. So it wasn't, oh, I just don't like this place, or it was none of that. It was I learned what I could learn from each that works in my business. But I did informational interviews, which made things easier. So for entrepreneurship, it's the same thing. Talk to people. Really do an honest assessment. Is this really what I want to do? Will I have the fortitude to continue? Like to really understand what is required, and this is a perfect space for that. As Brenda Lee asked, okay, here are the good things, but then there are also the challenges, the difficulties that you have to encounter, and to really do an honest assessment of, is this something that I really want to do? And am I really prepared for it? Because one of the things I tell people, they think, oh, I'll become an entrepreneur. I'll become a millionaire overnight. No, you won't. No, you won't. Even when I make certain steps, for example, when I get this big project or this client, and people are, oh, that's great. Do you know how many years it took just to get that one client? From
Absolutely.
networking, they get to know me, they trust me. So and that's usually the case where each 1 year, let's just say 1 year, when things start really taking off, it's like, do you know how many years it took just to get to this point? And each person or each client, it was talking to them at least 1 year ago, and others maybe 2, 3 years, just keeping them in that space, and that's where communication. But going back, just as a reminder to the answer to your question, is to do informational interviews. The same if this is what you do for your 9 to 5, do the same with entrepreneurs. Talk to entrepreneurs. See what their journey has been like. Get a variety of entrepreneurs, especially those who are where you want to be, because sometimes you might get some noise in there and static where people are not the most helpful, as I had to learn. So just learn how to weed out the noise and then get to those that are where you want to be and where they can give you the honest truth. And then you do your own assessment to determine if this is for you.
So it's interesting because I feel like as I'm listening to you, a couple of words have come a couple of times. One is network. One is make sure that you're studying the territory and that you understand what is really what you want to do. And you also mentioned about support, having that support. You at some point even mentioned faith, the importance of having that faith, because the faith is what drives your actions, right? Um, eh, it's it makes me reflect a lot on my journey, and I would say, without the support or without expanding your network, um, it's really difficult to be in the entrepreneurial side of the business, because you're gonna be alone. Your support, your development, your like troubleshooting, all of that, because you're now a solopreneur at the beginning, it's you will not be able to do it alone. So any advice you have to for people who are that kind of person that wants to do it all, and how you navigated that, because trying to do it all can lead into burnout, right, as an entrepreneur. So any advice on that side?
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, it is kind of inevitable.
Agreed.
You're your own accountant, graphic designer, marketing team. But let's see. I would say that's where the networking. Remember when I was talking about not just networking with the groups of people that are in international trade, but where I started to expand my circle. That's where I you just have to try to make the money so that you can invest in hiring people. And that's really it. So that's when I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I do not want to be a graphic designer for another day because I'm not great at it. Let's start getting some clients so that we can hire someone. But then there are also so many tools. For example, speaking of the guy that edits my videos, right? I've been with him well before I even started my company, because in that transition, I just started off with a blog. I was like, let me just start off with a blog so people that can learn about me, but not just in that scholarly academic space, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I met him actually through it's called Upwork now, but at the time it was called Elan.
Okay.
And he still works with me all these years later for that. So that was my first foray into that. But then there's so many tools now, so you're not spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars. It's where it is reasonable, where you have people that do graphic design, more so on kind of the marketing and the creative side, where you can hire people. You don't have to have them full time or on your team, to definitely tap into those resources. Now, when it comes to accountants and attorneys, when I was saving my money, because I knew those at least have money for those two, I will pay. I will not do. I just won't do all this other stuff.
I'm 100% there with you.
Yeah, I
100%.
will pay the money to draft my documents, do it properly, so that if anything were to arise, I feel confident knowing that I work with a credible attorney to do whatever I need to do on the legal side. But as far as the creative side, I mean, even now they have bookkeeping, all this, just for basic bookkeeping. to tap into some of those tools and where they have freelancers, just so that you can outsource versus because you just can't do it. That's the one time I would say can't. There are only 24 hours in the day. At some point, you need 8 7 8 hours of sleep. Do
Absolutely.
something fun, okay? Because I am a salsa dancer, so I have to incorporate some hours there to work
Absolutely.
out. So it's like instead of me sitting dragging 4 or 5 hours to do something that somebody can do in an hour, I would just outsource. That's what I've gotten to.
I agree. I agree with you, but I do also agree that the first year is a year where you're trying to figure so many things out. And yeah, you end up wearing 10,000 different hats. I do feel that we have a benefit. New entrepreneurs today have a slightly different advantage than entrepreneurs in 2013
Yes.
because there's so many new technology that are there to facilitate the journey of entrepreneurship. AI, for example. I can't even imagine myself being able to do what I do today if it wasn't for the support of AI. Like AI for images, AI for logos, AI for um ideas. Like I'm looking for ideas. I don't have a team of people that work with me. So where do I go? Let's brainstorm with AI and see what AI uh, brings back to me so I can get creative. And I do feel, and not just AI, like, well, yeah, in addition, AI, that now you got AI to do note taking for you. Now you got video clip AI that actually takes your big videos, like, for example, today's video, and can cut it into smaller videos and content creation for you. But there's also a lot of productivity apps out there that help you manage your business much well. Like there's so many different types of CRMs to help you manage your clients, to make it help you manage even your marketing, even like uh, your programs and everything in between, right? So I do feel that people like me coming now into entrepreneurship, we get a little bit of an advantage, but at the same time there's a big level of competition. um, any advice you may have for the people hearing or listening to us right now in terms of how do you keep yourself being competitive enough in the market?
Hmm. How do I keep myself? Well, luckily AI has not gotten to me yet. But no, serious though. Um, let's see. To stay well, the key thing to stay competitive is to study your field. You don't become stagnant. And that was for me why you always see me moving and doing new things. Not, oh, I got this knowledge and whatever I did in 2012, 2013, I'm
Mhm.
still stuck there. Is to continue to learn, to grow, and to be okay not knowing everything and learning, seeing what's happening. Like for me, when I say field, what's going on in my particular space, so that if something new comes up, oh, if that's within my capacity, well, then let me develop that. But that's actually how I've stayed competitive, because I know I started off with one idea, but as I learned, okay, what are the questions that people are asking? Who's doing that, or where's the gap? How can I fill in that gap? What extra knowledge do I need to learn or develop, and to stay on top of what's happening in your space? To me, and that's regardless technology or not, that's the key thing, just to stay competitive and relevant in your field.
Absolutely. And what you just described is basically a growth mindset. Is being able to keep yourself understanding that you have to be constantly evolving, and you have to be constantly evolving with the technology, constantly evolving with the competitors, constantly evolving with the market needs. So it's a constant evolution, and not seeing it as a detrimental, but more as an impulse to grow the business. I love that. So we're 54 minutes in. How can people connect with you?
Oh, great. Well, they can connect with me on LinkedIn. If anyone sees me, we'll just start there with LinkedIn. My name's Sarita Jackson, and then PhD, and then you'll see some other letters after. But you type this in, you'll find me. Also, check out the website grit.org, GRIIT.org, and you'll see a pop up for a newsletter. Go ahead, sign up for that newsletter, and you'll continue to get tips just about my journey as a global entrepreneur, if you will, but then also just about the work that I do and any upcoming workshops or events, talks, podcast interviews, things of that nature.
I'm completely blessed to have had you with me today, from like understanding the transition from academia to business, how you prepare, which is really amazing. I don't think a lot of people may have the luxury to prepare the way you did, but it shows that having a good plan pays off. And I think the energy you bring into that constant growth that you seek in order to be able to deliver the best results but also the best service out there, it shows in the work you do. So I am truly blessed to have you here with me today. For those of you listening, once again, if you want to connect with Sarita, go ahead and connect with Sarita. There's more women like Sarita coming up in the next couple of weeks, and I can't wait to see you all back here in not next Monday, but the Monday after. So, with that said, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the week. And I'm blessed to have you here with us today. Bye.